From the Journal of Dr. Molly Harrow. Okay. First entry on board the new ship. The ship I've been chasing for a not insignificant percentage of my life. The ship my colleagues all insisted didn't exist. If I had colleagues, anyway. I don't really know what they're called when your PhD and MD are now defunct because they were acquired on a planet that went blorp. But anyway, ship's time is, ship's time is all zeros. I need to figure out how to reset that. But we've been on board for roughly 10 hours and I have not even begun to sort out what is going on with this thing. The hybridized construction is way beyond anything I've worked with before. The integration where the different technologies come together is seamless down to the molecular level, but they still remain fully differentiated. It's a real oil and water scenario, or oil and water and vinegar. Fuck it. I'm just calling it Neapolitan. The Neapolitan of spaceships. It took me 2 hours to find the engine room, and I honestly don't have the words to describe it. I'm gonna have to give it its own entry once I figure out what the hell it actually is. For now, all I'll say is it's beautiful, and I want to just crawl inside the heart of this incredible vessel and breathe in her secrets. I could stay in this place 100 years, 1,000, and still only scratch the surface. She's a mystery I'm never going to unravel, but god damn, I'm going to try. The crew is, they'll get their own entries too. It's something of a weird bunch aboard with me, but I have a good feeling about them. I mean, they're also interesting. More mysteries. My cup runneth over. There's so much to do, so many places to visit, but we're together now, and I have the rest of my life to delve into the unknown I'm swimming in. I'm home, and she's not going to leave me behind.
Welcome to The Chimera, a role-playing adventure podcast. Today we bring you the final episode of Season 1 of The Old Bones, a super-powered sci-fi campaign built using a pre-release version of Onyx Path's Story Path system. We'll be returning to the universe of The Old Bones in Season 3, but in the meantime, as you probably know by now, we're going to be doing some D&D, so look forward to that in the near future. As always, I am Vin Labate, and I play Sidra, a living financial instrument. And joining me this week are...
I'm Braden Lamb. I'm playing Dang, an energy-eating space rhino bodyguard.
I'm Kacey Smith, playing Molly Harrow, a human technophile and gadgeteer, and the captain of the ship Chimera.
I'm Kelly Weissman Aspruth Jackson. I portray Theron Melanthios, a 7-foot-tall heretical catman.
I am Jeffrey Bard, and I play Releth, a galactic lawyer from the wrong side of the Akashic Bleed, and pilot of a mech that goes by the name of Moonin.
As well as our GM, Josh Hall-Bachner. Let's get this finale started, Josh.
Okay. So, when last we left our intrepid heroes, they were leaving the surface of the planet Malice 5 after absconding with what appears to be a canoptic jar that they were led to by Emporos' strange and confusing demands. And as they were flying the ship back to the Stewards of the Living base from which they'd originally departed, a wave of energy rolled out from the center of the planet over them and onto the moon. So here we are. You guys are probably just a couple minutes out from landing. So chance to have any quick conversation you want before we cut to that.
We also grabbed an extra thing from that cabinet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody...
Molly
did. You?
Yeah.
Molly did.
Yeah.
I want it for the record that Josh just smiled very quickly.
At the mention of an extra thing.
Yeah.
So, was there any obvious impact from that wave of energy?
You guys just got kind of the Star Trek like.
Oh, right. We shook the camera, right? We
shook the camera, but the Chimera seems like it shielded you well enough that it seems like it was fine. It isn't showing any obvious signs of serious distress afterwards, and none of you really felt anything.
I think I might just pull up whatever scans and like communication access I have to the station on the moon, just to see if it sounds like everything has exploded into chaos or not.
What would that entail in terms of communication here? Like what would you really have there?
That's a good question.
They're just like regular old hailing them?
Yeah, probably something like that. Or if we got like the passwords to their intranet for their various like their Slack channel, their Discord server.
In terms of
Space Slack.
if you hail them, you're not going to get anything right now. You can kind of mesh in with their local network, but that's basically like when you land. And again, with the way that everything's situated, you have to kind of land a distance away from the actual base itself and kind of travel in. So basically, you get no response as you're trying to actively contact them via voice or whatever. As you kind of land, you're able to mesh in with the network, and you can see that it's still like up, like it's not like it was an EMP blast that took out all of the mechanical functioning or anything, but you do see it seems a little like, I'm trying to think of like how this would best manifest, but like basically like it seems like there's not the type of activity that's like you'd expect to see all the time. Like again, if we're going with kind of the Slack example here, if you're in a big channel with like hundreds of people, there's a certain level of kind of like chit chat you'd expect to be kind of going on in the background, and that doesn't really seem to be going right now.
Right. At that point, I'm probably just going to head up and join whoever's on the bridge. Yeah.
Josh, with mission concluded, is Emporos still at the same level of prominence, or has Emporos receded?
I would lean toward receded unless you think that doesn't make sense.
No, I'm good with that, and I think it's probably more interesting based on where we know this is headed from the flash forward.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'd actually kind of wonder. I look to you a little bit to whether that you think that would be more likely to happen, kind of like in a big flash, I guess, or like whether he would just kind of like sink into the chair basically.
I think around the time that they get back to the ship, things are sort of in a rush, right? Getting back to the ship.
Yep.
And around the time that wave passes over them, somewhere in there, Theron does that all over the body shake that a cat does, where all the hair stands up on end, and
oh my god,
does that and then like stretches and gets a big snack out of the refrigerator and starts eating because that took a lot of energy and it made him hungry. Mm-hmm. Other than that, he's probably not going to comment on it directly.
Yep.
I think Dang would like to, as much as he can, analyze whatever that energy was that came off the planet.
Okay,
first with his eyes, and second with whatever he can do with the readouts on the ship.
Oh, you're not just essentially licking it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like that the guy does with the salt in Last Jedi.
Oh yeah. You mean the director?
That extremely wise thing that
right.
a person did.
Yeah, I think Dang probably at first looks at some kind of ship interface and puts a little tentacle to his chin, hovering the other tentacle around a variety of options, and then just walks to an airlock and like starts holding on to something and prepared to stick his horn out to taste whatever residual energy is out there.
Okay. So if you want to try to get a sense of something here, I would say give me a roll of, this is a little weird, but I'm going to say cunning plus integrity, because the integrity stat for Dang kind of is tightly coupled with his like energy powers. So that seems like a good way to kind of abstract it in terms of like trying to get a feel for what's going on.
Yeah. I'll do that. Looks like 3 successes.
Okay. the biggest thing that you get off of it is that it's got like it's not just a flat kind of like wave of energy. You have a dense area, but it's heavily modulated. Like there's a pattern or patterns in there in a way that it's more like, analogously speaking here, it's more like a radio broadcast than like a gun or something going on.
Possibly some kind of signal. I report that to Molly. I think that planet might have been trying to talk to friends.
What does that mean for us or for the moon?
I don't know. You're the scientist.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't guarantee that all the people on the moon aren't dead based on their current communication status.
Definitely does not guarantee that is true.
So does the moon look any different than it did prior to the...
No, as you're coming in, everything looks normal. When you land on the planet, the landing area basically seems pretty normal, but there's nobody like there. But no obvious visual changes or anything.
Okay. Well, I think we're just gonna have to go in to check it out, see if anybody's hurt. Hopefully people are alive. That would be good.
Hopefully people are alive.
We don't have to do that.
Yeah, hopefully most of them are alive, says Dang very meaningfully.
As these thoughts keep being brought up by the rest of the party, R'lyeh is going to start composing in his head some kind of I don't know, exceptionally legalistic way of denying our culpability for that, just in case it comes up in the future, and then he'll record it on Moonen's recorder and then put it in his back pocket.
Nice.
And we've still got our tall orange buddy whose name I've forgotten.
Canix, you are.
Canix, yeah. So we gotta I'm not gonna just drop him off if things are bad, but I don't want to take him with us if they're not. So
we have to check so that we don't have to hold this guy around unnecessarily.
Yeah, pretty much.
He seems kind of a little spooked at what's going on. He had kind of let himself get relieved once you guys were leaving the planet and everything, and now he's kind of like, oh no, what's going on? This is still my first day. So okay, if anybody wants to do any other real active investigative things to try to answer these specific questions, let me know. Otherwise, we probably want to move into moving, I guess.
Yeah, I'm for moving.
Yeah, it seems like moving time.
Okay. So you guys start heading in along the access path. At first, everything seems kind of okay, but some of the lights are kind of flashing a little bit. It just kind of looks like it's not really, at 100% capacity, and when you would have expected to see somebody else in the process here, you're not seeing anybody. So that's all kind of weird. But otherwise, everything seems pretty quiet on the the kind of walk in from the ship to the facility.
Hang on, one question. How long did it take us to get here after the energy blast hit?
Probably 45 minutes or something.
Okay, so pretty quick. Okay.
Yeah, not a super long time.
Right.
But not right instantly.
Right.
As you get closer, you can see I guess it would be Theron who has the best visual acuity here too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, so you can kind of there's not a lot of detail from this, but you can kind of see well enough to notice that there are some periodic basically vibrations to the domes, kind of the way that you aren't getting sound out from there, but you kind of see it moving as if there are impacts or something happening inside.
I have concerns that there may be something violent going on inside the facility.
That sucks. Then do you and Rolith want to take point?
Yeah, sure. Sure. After you, Theron.
Sounds good. Theron draws both his weapons and takes the lead.
Okay. There isn't a door that you can kick open exactly, but there's a big airlock button that you can hit dramatically and open it up. So at the moment that you kind of hit that and enter into the facility proper, you can immediately see that things are kind of a mess. Stuff is on fire here, knocked over. There's smoke everywhere in the air. Various kind of like loud crashing and banging sounds from various places. At first, when you come in, you don't see anybody, but you're in a spot where there are kind of multiple long hallways stretching off. So there's a good distance within the area that you can see. And down one of these, you see somebody come by, some hundreds of feet away. But somebody in one of the Stewards of the Living uniforms, but kind of like torn and singed, and overlaid on top of them in a way that is familiar, but much more kind of blatant here. You see like the kind of energy form of some like much larger life form kind of rendered out in kind of like an almost slightly electronic form. In this case, it looks like something that would be like a big terrestrial predator, not quite anything in Earth terms, but something kind of on the scale of like one of these like large prehistoric mammals. Multiple limbs, big claws and tusks and stuff. And it's kind of overlaid over him, and it moves in a way that is matched to his motions.
This looks familiar.
Okay, so this guy is like being ridden by the ghost of a robotic Smilodon.
Yes, yeah. It's very comparable to anything that you guys would have seen with Emporos here, but like it's the big difference is being that it's constant, so it's not just kind of flickering on and off. It's there all the time. And it's clear that like the underlying person doesn't seem to have any control over what's going on at all. So he's just kind of moving in this animalistic way and like swinging his arms and stuff. And this energy Smilodon is like, is tearing through metal. And, you kind of hear an auto-tuned roar basically. And then he kind of smashes through a door and he's gone again.
So there is exactly one beat from Theron on this. He's going to delay himself just long enough that if Emporos wants to stop him from trying to kill this thing, it can.
It does not.
Okay. That's all the information that I need.
Okay.
You said it sort of moved away though? It passed through our line of sight and then moved on? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so it passed through a line of sight, it tore a hole in the wall, and then it started moving through it.
Okay.
So if you don't do anything, it would just be gone. If you go after it, it's not moving with a level of intensity that makes it hard at all for Theron to catch up.
When you say it tore a hole through the wall, was it the energy being tearing a hole or the physical being?
Yeah, like imagine it like this. The guy is kind of like on all fours.
Right.
He kind of makes a motion with his hand, and this much larger energy claw kind of rises up and moves kind of in sync with it, and that tears through the wall.
Okay.
If you play Magic at all,
not cool, but cool.
There's a small set of cards called Totem Armor.
Yes, it's a Totem Armor.
It exactly mirrors the design implications for the Totem Armor card set.
Yep, exactly like that. Yeah.
Ah, shit, what did we do?
Well, we didn't do anything according to my documents. We are not responsible for this.
Based on our history, this seems to just happen to extraplanetary facilities. This is the third time we've come to one that's just been utterly destroyed by the time we open the door.
You know the phrase, if you meet one asshole during the day, that person's an asshole. But just saying. Okay, so Theron, you rush to catch up with this guy. As you get up there, he's basically torn a hole into one of the more residential type areas, and he's basically in this section, just kind of like trashing it. Like he's kind of slowed down and is smashing computer devices and cabinets and all this kind of thing. He's not really super paying attention to you, so you've kind of got the drop on him if you want to.
Yeah, so I want to try and pounce and bring my blade down, basically from a height and try to cleave the target, but I want to try and cut through just the energy and not the body on the inside. I don't actually know. I mean, Theron doesn't know if his sword is going to be effective on that or not. But that's the initial attempt, is to see if he can just cut through the energy being and not the person.
Okay, give it a shot.
All right. 3 plus scale.
Okay. So you do this. You bring the blade down. The result is actually a lot like what you experience from inside when somebody else kind of comes at you and Emporos's kind of defense like kicks in. So you bring it down. The electronic form of the animal kind of solidifies in such a way that you kind of like you kind of clip it. It's not like I guess the way that I would put this is like you can feel that like you are interacting with it, right? It's not like it's just this completely impenetrable thing, but it kind of clangs into place in a way that doesn't really make anything but kind of surface level damage. So you do that, it kind of stops, starts to turn around.
Okay.
At this point, after Raleth sees Theron, kind of dash off ahead of the party. Moonin boosts like a quick dash boost to where like he kind of entered that open area, and she's got her plasma rifle ready, not quite sure where to shoot at, making decisions, kind of stuff.
Okay.
Are there any like security cameras or like any kind of video access that Molly can use to see what's going on in the rest of the facility? Like basically she wants to know, is this the only rampaging like robo-ghost, or are there a whole bunch of them?
Okay. I'd say give me a roll, but I don't think you even have to. You connected to the systems here earlier. There's not any really intense level of security, so I think you're just fine to do that. Okay, so here's what you can get, right? You go into it. First thing you can see is that these effects are obviously spread kind of throughout the facility. It's definitely not just this one guy. It seems to be affecting people in part by like kind of host species. There's it seems like there's some that are kind of affected and some that aren't. But there's easily like 30 or something of these things kind of like rampaging through the place. And they all none of them really seem to be doing anything on an obvious look that has a lot of intelligence behind it. It doesn't seem like sapient things like working some purpose. It kind of looks like predators that just got let out of a zoo or something. There's besides the rampaging that's going on, there's mainly a couple spots that you kind of note actively as being of relevance. One, there's a spot where you see Ayet, who is the kind of wingless Nasiri boss lady that you guys met earlier. She's kind of barricaded herself into one room behind a series of tables and boxes and everything, and is currently using two kind of plasma weapons to kind of fend off a few of these creatures, from kind of reaching her. And then in another spot elsewhere, there's a few people, and these are kind of notable. They all are basically kind of wearing like overly severe suits, they're not anybody that you've recognized from previously. They're definitely not members of the stewards because they're not wearing the uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
And they have kind of a variety of weird devices that they're holding. So there's like a spot where there's like 3 of these guys. From the camera, what you can see is that basically it looks like parts of their outfits are kind of smoldering.
Mm.
Kind of like if you had people who were made of paper, basically.
Oh.
So there's like 3 of these. And they've actually subdued one of these creatures, and kind of using some of these devices where the utility is not obvious, but it's allowed them to kind of pin one of them down. It's growling and cursing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them has something that kind of looks like basically a cross between a scroll and a Band-Aid, like a large piece of paper with a bunch of stuff that's kind of illegible from anything you can see here written on it. That it's kind of attaching onto the person inside.
Okay. Where is Legion Stone?
You don't see him.
Okay. Molly's just going to pull out the little canopic jar that she collected and just sort of like look through it with different spectra and just see if she can notice it doing anything weird.
Okay, yeah, give me a quick roll just to see how much I can give you on that.
What should I be rolling?
That would be let me see.
Is that maybe an analysis or an enigma?
Yeah, something like that. I'm going to say that's either reason or cunning, plus either analysis or enigmas.
Okay.
Depending on how you want to kind of approach it.
Let's see what I've got here. I'll do reason and let's do reason and enigmas. That seems more enigmatic than analytic.
It's a little mysterious.
2 successes.
Okay. The big takeaways that you can come up with here are, 1, it does not appear to be actively doing anything. In as much as it's like a container, it is like containing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like you can certainly draw kind of at least an implicit type of connection between this and what you're seeing. Like it is an electromagnetic container of some kind, right? So, any of the details are not obvious. You probably have to sit down in a lab or examine this much closer to have any real details beyond that. But you can like draw an inference at least.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of like, oh, okay, this is the kind of thing that you'd use if you had, any type of semi-mobile electronic, pattern of importance that you needed to contain for a long period of time.
Okay. So this is similar to the things that are causing the problem, but this one itself doesn't seem to be currently causing a problem. Is that
that's
right?
a fair takeaway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't drop it.
She puts it away again.
Yeah, I think Dang was probably peeking over Molly's shoulder to see if he could see Legion Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Sidra probably was also.
I mean, I think our best bet is to head towards these paper guys. Because A, they seem to be able to stop these things, and B, they're weird.
Alternately, we could leave.
Yeah, has Molly announced to the group what she knows from the security monitors? Just so I understand what's shared information, what's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think she would have.
All right.
She's not, it's not a secret.
I know we generally pool information. I want to have an appropriate in-character reaction.
All right. So Molly will basically say over comms, there's a lot of these things. They don't seem to be doing anything with particular intent or focus, except for smashy run-amuckedness.
If there are more than 5 of these things, we should leave immediately, Captain. The crew isn't prepared to face threats of this magnitude.
Well, there's like 30.
We should definitely leave.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kacey. I'm not trying to cut you off.
No. I'm just trying to think of like she's the self-preservation versus like leaving a bunch of people to die.
Yeah, I think character-wise, this is like what I would expect from both of these people. Like, Theron, I think Theron has made the correct tactical assessment here, and I would expect Molly to be resistant to that, despite knowing that it's probably the correct tactical assessment.
Just as a reminder, Theron definitely follows Molly's instructions, so don't feel. I'm not trying to like argue. I'm trying to present the character's position.
All right, so I think what Molly's going to say is, I agree that we should leave, but I want to take as many civilians as we can with us. So grab them as you find them, guys.
Theron's size. Any directions on where they are?
Well, there's one barricaded. Are there I guess Molly will kind of spout out the people that she found that didn't seem to be possessed by these things and were also alive.
Yeah, is the best kind of bet on this, in the sense that, like, there's some places where there's people who are pretty clearly screwed. Like, there's too many of the creatures between you and them, or they're kind of barricaded in somewhere and they're probably not going to make it. There's some cases where it seems like other people have probably made it to some of the other egress points. You can kind of tell that some of the doors have opened and everything, and given what you've seen about these rampaging creatures, it doesn't seem like any of them would really be able to do that. And there's other vessels on the moon besides yours, so it seems like a certain amount of people have already gotten out. She's the only one who seems to be holding her own in a position where she could possibly kind of be extracted, but that is stuck without any kind of extra help.
Okay, so Molly will give directions to her, to Ayet.
And she's in kind of a slightly higher level of the dome right now. You kind of have to wind kind of up maybe 2 levels. And then, there's probably about 1,000 feet of corridors or something between where you are and where she would be. And then there's kind of a couple exit points that you could identify from where she is.
Okay.
And in terms of going up, there's elevators that are probably not working. There's kind of Jeffrey's tubes type stuff. And then there's at least one place where, like, just the ceiling is just, like, literally ripped open that you guys could just go through, if that's how you want to play it.
I mean, if that's the fastest, whatever's fastest, essentially.
That's probably the fastest.
All right, gaping hole in the ceiling it is.
I'm not getting through a Jeffrey's tube.
Just for the meta.
Jeez. Oh, jeez. Okay, so basically the big question is then, are people going in one group or splitting up in any way? And if so, which way or ways are you taking?
I mean, if Theron's saying we can't take them, I guess it'd be splitting up would be a really bad idea, because definitely, like, only a couple of us can't take them.
Mm-hmm.
So also, once we get her, and whoever else we can help along the way, then we can all leave together. So I think staying together is the better plan.
Okay, who's taking lead? Who's who's going to go first? And, like, what is your kind of mechanism of moving here? Give me the start of it, and I'll just pick up from there.
I think Theron will turn to Dang and say, I suggest that I should take point. You're needed to keep the softer members of the party alive.
Possibly. Maybe I should, if these things are made of energy, I mean, I'm not looking forward to eating a guy, but it is within the realm of possibility.
Theron thinks about this. It clearly hadn't occurred to him.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very good point.
I imagine Emporos has an opinion, too.
Yes,
you can eat one of them.
Emporos is definitely filing that away. But in the immediate sense, if you can eat one of them, please do. As quickly as possible.
Alrighty. If I had a bib, I'd put it on.
Oh, no.
Jeez.
It's like Safari Buffet.
While all this is happening...
Delicious in dungeon.
Like a crab shack.
While all this is happening, I think Sidder's going to try to patch back into that sort of internal communication system and watch for anyone, like, actually saying anything so that we can figure out where people are, and just try to like reach out to any of the trapped survivors and see if she can sort of place them on a map.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like actually just directly place people and signals onto a sort of communal Google map of the place.
That's actually going to probably be your best bet, is that with a little effort, you can anybody who is still alive, you can kind of map them out and provide like you can make it possible to kind of provide some kind of tactical visibility in terms of like where other people are and like where spots that seem to be relatively clear pathways are. Nobody else seems to be broadcasting anything in, so you'd kind of just be broadcasting this out more than anything else. Do you want to do that?
Yeah. Probably she'll sort of make that public and be like, Theron, Raleth, I am sending you the locations of anything that seems like a survivor. Do with this information what you will.
Okay, thanks, Sidra. Speaking of which, we should get moving. And Moonin is firing at the big thing that's in front of us that we got the attention of earlier.
Okay.
Right, Theron is still sort of with one of those, isn't he?
Okay,
yeah,
so it sounds to me like then basically, from what everybody's saying, it sounds like Theron is going to kind of peel off a little bit, let Raleth kind of like cover that particular one to kind of keep him off the tail. And then Theron's going to start moving aggressively with Dang slightly behind with Molly and Sidra. Is that about right?
I guess I would say more like, I think Theron's plan is let's engage these creatures individually to the minimum possible, because I think Theron thinks he could probably take one if he had to, like over a longer period of time, but doesn't have any confidence that they can face down all of them. So it's more like try to get around this one that's in our way, assuming that it's pretty much in our way, and then race to the people we want to rescue, and then leave.
Okay. Yeah, and that's about the kind of area that look at. You kind of have a Resident Evil type scenario. Like you have the capacity to individually take out these things, absolutely, but there's a lot of them, and they are not unwilling to gang up. So okay, so Theron's just firing at this thing. It's turning its attention to him. Oh, sorry, not Theron. Raleth is firing at this thing. It turns its attention to Moonin and is basically just going to pounce at you. So Theron, you can either kind of try to do something there, or you can duck out. It's kind of.
I mean, if it's engaging with Raleth, then Theron isn't going to abandon Raleth.
Okay.
So.
Dang would like to. If it's looking like it's about to pounce at Raleth, Dang's gonna stand off to one side and attempt to grapple it and see if he can't eat it.
All right.
Okay. Give me a grapple roll.
Alrighty.
You're basically going to be trying to catch it midair, basically. Like it's going to jump, and you're going to kind of lean in with a tentacle and try to like grab it out of you.
Yeah.
Whale all over again.
Might brawl. With. Specialty in grappling. Hey, that's pretty good.
Roll to eat.
So that's 5 successes on the dice, plus the specialty is auto success. Correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
6.
Yeah. So that's enough for you to get a tentacle around it, kind of pull it down out of the ground. The way that its momentum is going, basically you're going to get the tentacle out. You're going to be able to wrap around it. You're not going to be able to stop or slow all its momentum. So kind of your arm, basically, along with it, is going to kind of crash into Moonin's like legs with a bit of a jolt. But previously it was kind of leaping claws out, and you've completely neutralized that. So you guys just kind of you crash into Moonin's legs. You all kind of tumble over, but you now have like one tentacle wrapped around.
Okay.
So if you want to kind of try to start absorbing, you can do that.
Yeah. Absorption, I spend a glory, which I'll represent with this game token. And roll vitality and integrity. Ooh, 2 successes.
Okay, so like, what's basically kind of happening here? So you've got it wrapped up. You're trying to absorb it. It has, basically the kind of electronic equivalent of a tough outer shell. So like imagine that analogously here, you're wrestling with like a giant lobster and like trying to eat it while you fight. So that's kind of what's happening.
Okay.
Like you're kind of basically like starting to peel it open. It doesn't really have any fundamental resistance to that. It's given no changes to anything else, you will succeed. But it's going to take a minute. You can't just put a tentacle on it and slurp it all up. You kind of get into the.
Presumably, there's some kind of force holding it in the shape of a monster.
Right. So you're basically just kind of working your way through that. You're literally kind of like applying. I'm trying to think of what the word is here, but you basically are applying competing forces to kind of literally peel it open to accomplish this.
Okay.
So what does this look like?
Trying to tear its AT field is how I'm picturing it.
Yeah, what does it look like what he's doing?
Yeah.
Just trying to dip my horn in towards like say between its shoulder blades or something.
Okay, yeah. So that's it exactly. So Dang is wrapped around it. And he's even though the thing is like energy and partially translucent and everything, he's wrapped around that larger creature form as if it's solid. So his tentacles kind of all the way around, basically like its forelegs, and then sloping around to the back of its neck. And then he's kind of jamming his horn in. And I would guess probably the way this works is he's kind of got the tentacle almost looped around what seems like a lip of a cranial plating or something, and you're kind of peeling with that and kind of pushing with the horn in the opposite direction.
So in Pete's Dragon, when the swamp people are hanging all over the invisible dragon?
There's a little bit of that. Yeah, okay. And so you're kind of peeling it open.
Okay. You guys should get out of here. Make a break for it.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there are any others in the immediate vicinity, and Yang can feel pretty confident here that he can at least immobilize it. So this would be a good kind of breaking point if people are going to split off from here and have you catch up.
Okay.
All right, so we press on.
Okay. The pathway to get to where Ayed is kind of holed up is not that difficult again, because you can kind of bound through these big holes in the ceilings. So you basically you go up a couple times, you wind up in this hallway. There's some destruction and carnage in here, but as you walk through the hallway, at first at least, there's none of these things. As you get closer, and at this point, since you've run into them once, your senses there are pretty rapidly attuning to these. So before you even get around the corner, you can kind of tell. You smell that Ayed is in there, since you've encountered her before. And you can see that there seems to be like 3 of these things that are kind of assaulting the little makeshift structure that she's put together. You kind of come around the corner, and there's one that more than anything else is like like a giant pterosaur. Like if you've seen those, I can't remember what it's called, but the thing that's like basically like a giant pteranodon, like giraffe thing.
Oh, I'm not sure if I've seen that. Sounds cool though.
Yeah, I'll find the picture. But one of those, another one kind of like the Smilodon one, and then one that looks like kind of a big lizard almost.
So there's like repeating species, or at least we've seen 2 of the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So wait, Theron, where should I be aiming on these things? I have no idea.
At this point, my suggestion is that you strike the living creature inside if you can. I don't have any hope of salvaging their lives, and it may be the weakest point on the creature as it stands.
Yeah, like there's kind of an open question that might come up in a more academic context of like what the exact like level of connection is, and like what exactly is still going on inside like the host. here, but like certainly in the context that you're in, you know, it does not seem super ultra viable to like, you know, knock out
save the dude.
Yeah,
right.
It's Matrix rules. Oh, it's the Quetzalcoatlus. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, those things are awesome.
Yes.
All right, so Theron can see, you know, at the sort of the peeking around the corner, he can see, all right, there's 3 big monsters in there. They're attacking the person we're trying to save. There's not much going on in this room otherwise, right? It's sort of a bare space. Is that fair? Or
Yep. Yeah, right. It's literally there used to be things in this room. Basically, all of those things have been pulled over to form this makeshift barricade, and she's just kind of like occasionally shooting, you know, energy bolts out at them through, you know, kind of a few small cracks that are in this structural area.
All right. Theron turns to Ralph and says, I'm going to create a distraction. Capitalize on it.
Okay, sounds good.
Checks his sword, checks his gun, stands, like, puts himself square in the doorway and roars. And shouting out a traditional war cry of his people, shouts, Leroy Jenkins! And just dives into the fray. Just swinging.
Okay. As you charge in, anybody watching, like the outline of Emporos is going to kind of crackle and spark here. Like, you know, not that anything specific is happening, just, you know, almost like anima flashing, like signaling that you're coming in and making you as intimidating as possible to these things. You know, and anybody looking at here, like there's like it's not like an order of magnitude, but like Emporos' shape has like a clear size advantage on any one of these. Mm-hmm. You know, it's probably, you know, another 30% larger, something like that. Yeah, so you know, charge in, roll anything you want to do in terms of like an actual attack here.
Yeah, you know, just trying to hit the largest, the closest one in the most savage way possible.
Okay, that's going to be the Quetzalcoatlus looking one.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think he's still fighting two-handed at this point, although probably his better attack is with the sword than with the gun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus scale.
Okay, great. Yeah, so and this is just with the sword?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so you go in. You know, you were able to kind of get enough of a sense off of your previous effort here that you have a pretty good idea. Like, you know, before you just kind of went in like almost blind, like trying to figure out. Since you got a sense of kind of like the resistance and the way that the like energy was interacting, I guess, with like the physical realm here, you know, you kind of have a better like starting angle, and you can kind of bring this in a way that like immediately like cuts in deeply into the energy form. There's kind of crackles of lightning. It kind of buckles a little bit and kind of reels back. You can feel it cutting through in the way that you're used to when like you kind of cut into flesh. So like you can tell that you've kind of struck a real blow here, and its attention is immediately only on you. And the other nearest by one also kind of turns in your direction. Mm-hmm. So you have successfully distracted.
All right.
Hey Josh.
Yeah.
Can I make something like an empathy roll? Like, now that I've seen multiple of these in one space, to try and figure out if they are in fact actually just animalistic, or if they've got some kind of like motivation and communication going on.
Yeah, give me a roll. Stop.
I gotta take a break here. Might be like 15 minutes, might be 20 minutes. I'll make it as quick as I can, but I gotta
Okay.
attend to kid.
It's okay if we just keep rolling, right?
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Raleth is going to shoot with precision on the quantum bolt, so it'll be a roll of I think it'll be 9 plus 2 auto successes on it.
All right, so.
But anyways, I'll be back.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. This is, I'm guessing, reason empathy, which gives me 8 dice. Let's gives me 3 and an auto success for discerning motivation, so 4.
Okay. So just to, since Jeff just gave us his dice pool, I rolled something for that. So he, Moonin basically swivels around to the one remaining one here and just pops it like right center on and kind of smashes it back into the wall. So it leaves a big dent. It's kind of momentarily staggered. Sidra, you from that you can pretty well confirm, like it does seem like they are animalistic, right? Like again, you can pretty seriously determine that they are not sapient in that sense. They don't have a sense of self. They don't like have a society or language, any of that kind of stuff. They seem pretty like, reasonably clever for animals. And their motivations, if you would say that, seem a little still like weird, right? Because if still probably your most common like exposure would be to like biological animals where this specific type of like food and reproduction aspect is like the obvious, clear kind of motivation at all times, right? And something's a little off here with that. You kind of have, again, it's the kind of thing where if you had one of these in a lab, you could probably learn all kinds of interesting things about what's actually motivating it and driving it. Mostly you can tell here that it seems to be a little off. Like let me put it this way. It's not what you would expect to get if you just took a terrestrial biological animal and turned it into something like this. It seems like it has the type of motivation that it would have if there was something that either just by virtue of how long ago it was changed or how it was created or whatever was operating in a context where it was clearly like a digital, energy-based technological life form like this.
Okay. That's
kind of weirdly vague, but I hope that kind of gets across what I'm going for there.
Yeah. I might, over the next couple of rounds, try and sort of pursue that mental line of thinking a little farther and see if I can sort out exactly what it is that
Sure.
like, yeah.
Okay.
Possibly by also like pulling up some of the security cameras that Molly pulled up before and like looking at them in different environments, but that is a matter for another round.
Okay. So, cutting kind of back a little, as we established, Dan, you were able to kind of lever this thing open, and eating the whole thing would take a minute. So your probably best bet here is essentially to like basically rip out the heart or the brain, metaphorically speaking, and chow down on that. Doing that will basically just dissolve the rest of the energy somewhat, leave you with just a dead humanoid.
Yeah.
And that particular threat neutralized.
I think that's his initial goal is to well I think Dang is actually thinking that he can maybe save this guy by destroying the ghost monster electric thing. He's gonna try that and see if he can save this person.
Yeah, so you rip one piece out. There's kind of a little like flash of light and kind of some swirlies that go on and everything as you kind of absorb that in, and the rest of the electronic form kind of fuzzes. Like it doesn't disappear. Whatever is holding it together doesn't go away completely, but like some of that clarity to that kind of goes off. It's like it got hit by static, and it kind of drops to the ground. It's not really like fully obvious if the person inside is like dead or just kind of like in a very low functioning like coma type state or what, but it does not that you can tell that the animal thing is not moving and probably not capable of doing so again, but it doesn't completely dissipate.
Okay. Dang says, how are you guys doing over there? Into his comm.
Well, there's definitely more of them over here. Are you still alive?
Yeah, I'm not sure about this thing. I think I've killed it. I tried to save the guy. I'm not a doctor. I'd like to think I did some good, but yeah, I'm not.
Well,
I'm not.
we've.
Not,
She straight up interrupts you. We do have more of them over here. If you want to, come over here where there are more of them.
Gotcha.
Okay, so just coming back there, so we've successfully, like you said, you've created a distraction. You've basically occupied, between Theron and Raleth, you've basically occupied the three that are in that room momentarily. But if somebody wants to get Iet out of there, somebody will have to do something to kind of either signal to her or make a step to move her.
Okay. Well,
so I think at the moment that's probably Molly, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Molly is gonna just. So is she like somewhere where Ayet could see her easily, or she's gonna have to like navigate around to be visible?
I mean, there's she's looking through small slits or gaps in this barricade that she's made. So like, it's possible for you to be seen. It's not like she's looking like, it doesn't seem like she's like looking in a great deal of like detail, I guess.
Okay.
So if you want to get her attention, you probably have to kind of like do something that is dramatic but not obviously threatening.
Mm-hmm. Are there any speakers or comms behind her?
Yeah. Okay.
So Molly's going to hack in so that the speaker or comm behind her says, hey, this is the crew of the Chimera. We're trying to get you out of here, but we're going to need your help.
There's kind of a pause, and then you hear kind of a grunt from inside that you can probably take as the affirmative.
Okay, then. We're going to try and, open up a window for you, and when I say run.
Okay. She pulls the gun out from the slot. It seems like she's ready.
Okay.
Okay, so are you actively, like, doing something to open a space, or are you just kind of giving her a signal?
So she's barricaded. There were these three things trying to eat her. We kind of knocked back one. That's where we're at?
So what happened is that Theron pounced on one, basically locked it in against the wall. The other one nearest to him turned on Theron to start moving to attack when that happened. And then Raleth took a shot at the third one that basically knocked it partway through a wall on the other side.
So there's
a central pathway that's kind of open right now that will not be open probably for very long.
Okay, so she's gonna say, run down the middle.
Okay. There's kind of a little shake. And then a slightly bigger one. I'm gonna pause. Slightly bigger one, and then a big section that kind of peels over, and she kind of comes out. You can see as soon as this is revealed that like she's fairly visibly wounded in a few different spots. Run in this case is really kind of more of like, staggered rapidly, but she manages to get from where she's barricaded over to basically where you are, Molly, before kind of collapsing to her knees.
Oh, that's going to be a problem. Let's hope Nasiri are light like birds. Molly's going to kind of take her arm and put it over her shoulders and try and get Ayet kind of up to her feet and over to the kind of what remains of the rest of the group that hasn't spread out to defeat these things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, luckily enough, they are indeed, she is indeed pretty light.
Excellent.
So
hooray.
Okay, so with her secured, Kenix, who has been trying to avoid doing anything too severe, is going to help you kind of prop her up a little bit here. So with her secured, is there anything else that any of you want to try to actively do here before making a break for it?
I'm just still sort of like, as we're moving, trying to puzzle out what these things are specifically up to, but that's not so much in action.
You can keep doing
Yeah.
that as kind of okay. For anybody else?
I think I'm still on my way there.
You might be able to just meet up with them as they start moving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in terms of the people who are kind of having broader situational awareness here, which is mostly Sidra and Molly at this point, tapped into the machines. So here's the biggest things that you can know. One is that the individuals in the papery suits that I mentioned before, they've managed to lock down a couple of these things. Each, when they basically fixate each one of these kind of pieces of paper onto one of them. And when they do, there's kind of a flash of light. It's hard to get a real clear picture of what's going on because you're just getting this through, kind of electronic surveillance devices. But there's kind of a flash of light, some shifting in colors, and it seems like it subdues them a little bit, and it stays glowing in kind of a reddish color once they've done that. So they managed to do this to a couple of them. It seems like they're kind of, taking a look at what's going on, and they've basically kind of called it. So it seems like they're in the process of taking these out somewhere. Otherwise, in various places above and beyond what's going on now, there seems to have been some kind of explosions starting. The doorway that you guys came through originally has been basically kind of blown out and kind of rubble dropped in front of it. And other parts of the facility are starting to go as well. So like something above and beyond what's happened with these creatures in particular is now happening on a bigger scale. And some of the most obvious exits are no longer available. At this point, the kind of clearest thing left is kind of one of the access tunnels into the kind of basement-y area of the facility.
Does it seem like the paper gentlemen are going after people with a specific agenda, or are they just grabbing whoever's near?
It seems like they're grabbing whoever's near. They're not using any language, so anything that Molly's judging on this is kind of based on kind of a visual quick look. But like following what you can from them, you basically see, they've grabbed the one guy, another one comes in and they grab it and they subdue it the same way, and then you see them kind of split up, look around a little bit, as if they're kind of getting a read of what's going on, and then just move back, take the ones that they have, and start transporting them out. So it seems opportunistic or opportunistic-ish.
Are all of the ones that we've seen so far been prehistoric animals?
Yes. I mean, I'm analogizing a little bit here.
Right.
Because,
Right.
Because they're not earth animals, but...
Yeah, so that's what I can tell you. They're not earth animals specifically. They have forms that like Molly would first analogize probably to different earth prehistoric animals, and I think basically the biggest takeaway there, I guess, is that one, they're probably biological in origin, like the animal shapes. It's not like they've just been designed out of nothing here.
Mm-hmm.
And two, that the scale of the energy versions here is probably reasonably proportionate to whatever the biological animals that they're based on are.
Okay.
If that makes sense, right? Like it's not like you would get if you took, like a rat and you made it giant and made of electricity.
They took a big
animal. Things it seems like electronic megafauna.
Okay.
That's really.
And like when you're looking at Emperos, he's a insectoid lobster thing, but also clearly mechanical. Like, do these things look like they're biological but now energy, or do they also look like they're like mechano beings that are now energy?
There's an extra level of kind of alienness to Emperos that kind of lines up with that. These seem, I guess the way I kind of analogize this is that there's like a level of distinction that you kind of get from the transition, like when you change them, in whatever way that this happened in whatever ancient history, the transition into being these energy like technological beings like has a certain amount of change on what their shape and movement and behavior and everything is. Emporos has an additional level of kind of mechanicalness, or like there's an extra layer of technological aspect in there. Not like a ton, not like Emporos is completely just like robot-y, clang or whatever, but there's an extra level of it. It's a type of distinction where if you're putting them next to each other, that alongside the size difference is something that would obviously stand out to you.
So at best, like, first guess, while Emporos was kind of a mechanoid being that then became an energy life form, these seem to have been biological creatures that were somehow converted into energy life forms, and that conversion made them a little weird. But
something close along those lines is a fair takeaway.
Okay.
From the information that you have. Okay. The thing that would be least clear or certain from that is whether you're looking at like individuals that were themselves directly converted or transformed or whatever, or whether you're looking at a form of life that was created out of biological source material, but maybe not like one-to-one. That's the thing that's not really clear. But generally speaking, yeah, like you can assume that these were purely biological before the templates here were purely biological, and that's not true the same way for Emporos.
Okay.
So when Dang rejoins the group, Molly can probably tell, and Sidra, who is attuned to such things, might be able to tell that he's in some kind of bad mood.
He ate something that doesn't agree with him.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I think probably the thing that's kind of most likely to kind of happen here is you've taken these both out. You've created the space for Iet to get out and kind of be grabbed and probably absent something else, given the current situation and everything. Roth is probably going to basically be using covering fire to keep the ones that you've engaged here back as you all kind of retreat out from there. So I'm guessing that you probably kind of meet up with Dang back on the ground floor. Roth taking up the rear of the group of the rest of you, and kind of laser shots and everything, missiles, etc., obviously all going off up there. Again, absent Jeff actually here directly to make a call on this, I'm guessing that probably the best thing would be to fire a missile or something and knock down part of the hallway, slow them down, right? Get you guys some cover. So as you come together, it's probably like a 7 on the urgency scale. There isn't one immediately bearing down on you, but obviously there's still a ton of them around, and things are starting to blow up and be louder and more dangerous.
Okay. Time to go.
Agreed.
So, absent anything else specific you guys are trying to do here, I think we basically, from there, pretty close to transition into the open from the first episode of this arc. As you're kind of going, I know that Sidra, you've been kind of trying to get a sense on these things. The best that you're able to kind of work out from what you have access to and what you're able to observe with them is that they are trying to get something. Like there's something like hunger in there somewhere that seems to be something on an energy level. It's probably analogous in some level to what goes on with Daring, but like not exactly. But also they're all they're kind of fired up, right? Like you can they behave in the way that animals that have been mistreated or used in some bad way would behave if freed. Like they obviously were in prison. They obviously weren't being kept in kind of a harmonious environment before whatever happened here. So they're all kind of extra reactive. So that's part of why when freed out here, they just immediately kind of trash everything and go wild.
Someone was running some kind of electronic megafauna circus.
Something like that, yeah.
What the? How did they end up here?
Okay. So yeah, if we're okay then, I think we so we cut back. As we saw the group running through the underground tunnels, escaping explosions, just generally being in a problematic situation, coming up to the surface, and just in time to see the Chimera lift off and fly away without you. And in the meantime, the planet is rapidly moving towards an explosion, and here you are.
Huh.
Any think fast plans anybody has that they want to try to implement here, given the dangerous circumstances?
So you said there were other ships?
Yeah, previously. Nothing is parked where you are.
Okay.
If that would certainly be a slim but viable plan, is to try to move rapidly to another place where there might be a ship and use that to try to escape in the very short period of time that you have available.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Sounds like something. Is the Chimera still visible leaving, or it's like gone?
It is rapidly disappearing.
Okay.
So you can start, I guess, the nearest ship is not like ultra super close nearby, but something you can kind of see. So you can start charging across the surface. You know, as you're doing this, basically like the equivalent of like gas explosions or something starting to ripple more and more through the surface, like big giant bursts of flame and showers of rocks are like bursting out of the ground, like all around you. It's getting kind of worse and worse. You're getting up towards the ship when sorry, just one quick second.
Oh, do we maybe want to wait for Jeff to come back?
Yeah, it might be a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll at least give him a moment to see if he can come back, and I can try to spot this thing that I'm looking for, actually.
So, absent an established name for these things, I'm tempted to refer to them as id monsters, which is the giant invisible electric monster from Forbidden Planet.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, guys.
So,
Hey-o.
Hey.
Hi, welcome back.
So we caught up to the flash forward, and so we watched the Chimera fly away without us, and now we're trying to make a dash to another ship that might be around before the planet explodes, the moon explodes.
How are we doing on that?
Well, you're dashing forward towards it. You can see something off in the distance as you're heading towards it. The kind of like explosion and everything get worse. One of the areas between where you and the ship is, like, there's suddenly a big burst, and a significant portion of ground kind of basically falls inwards, forming like a big ravine in between. And everything's getting worse. You're getting like multiple explosions a second now. Like, it's starting to get really loud. The whole horizons are starting to like light up with the amount of this that's happening. And you're still a ways away.
Oh boy.
I'm assuming that Molly... Am I carrying Molly at this point? I should be.
Yeah, I think someone was carrying me. Someone was carrying Phoenix.
oh yeah, that's right. We have 4 people to carry now, or 4 people who move at normal speeds.
Well, I'm carrying at least 2.
Yeah, and I yet.
I'm carrying at least 1. Or probably somebody with some free arms is riding on Dang's back as he sort of gallops along on all 4s.
Yeah, I think we've established that certainly Molly and probably also Sidra, I mean, only one of them, but either one, can ride Theron's back if necessary while he runs.
Yep, any of that'll work.
Yeah, so you guys keep moving. You're making your best effort, and as you get close to this other vessel, you spot, unfortunately, an area right below where the one that you're heading towards is. You see one of these big explosions. It basically flings the ship like half backward, exploding out from the front area, kind of, and you see it almost in slow motion, kind of like swing upwards and then crash down, upside down, and then the ground underneath it begins to crumble.
Son of a bitch.
Boom, 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 boom. And everything's exploding all around you.
Josh just made a lot of gestures
it's bad.
for those listening.
Theron,
Yes.
you it's tough for everybody here because with the amount of explosions, the smells, the sounds, the light, it's very difficult to see anything. But you're still probably the first one to notice at this point something moving well above the horizon, coming down towards you.
Theron, I mean, it sounds to me like there's sort of nowhere to run at this point, right? Like there isn't a better situation to be in. We're just
No.
Yeah. So given that, Theron doesn't have any incentive to move, so he just stands stock still and fixes his eyes intently on whatever it is that's coming down.
Okay. As it gets closer, you kind of get the sense of this. You have something that almost kind of looks like what in Earth terms would probably be a UFO historically.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a big triangular thing with a circular like glowing area in the middle.
Okay.
And it's all trimmed by like what you would basically call like almost like red and blue like neon lights piped around it.
Okay.
At various points. It's kind of spinning and coming down towards you. And as it gets close, a door kind of opens up on one side of it. And you see somebody come out, kind of on it's one of those kind of, spaceshipy doors that kind of like the wall kind of tips down to form a ramp.
Mm-hmm.
So that happens, and there's a guy standing there. As far as you can tell from a first glance, human, kind of a skinny guy of like Chinese descent, shock white hair, though he looks pretty young, and it's kind of worn in a short, spiky style. And he's wearing a very tightly fitted 3-piece suit of shimmery silver. He's got a jet black tie and a black flower as a boutonniere. And then there's like a white handkerchief that's very neatly folded in one of the pockets. Molly, at this point, you recognize this is Dreadnought from the New Wave.
Oh.
He waves to everybody.
Yeah, can we have a lift?
Is this good news or bad news?
I mean, considering exploding planet, I would call it good.
Well, then what are we waiting for? Let's get on.
He's like, he kind of nods. So it comes close. It doesn't land, but it gets down to the point where you can kind of like jump onto the...
Yeah, there's a sense of urgency behind Raleth's actions here. He kind of tosses the two people who he's holding into the ship, shepherds anybody else who's lagging behind. And yeah, the planet is exploding, so it's terrifying.
Yeah, so you guys all...
Also, we might be responsible for it.
You guys all managed to get in. The door closes, and the ship rockets off at the fastest possible speed. There's some kind of view, some viewing screen. You're in something that's just basically kind of like a cargo bay. There's various boxes and kind of, things covered in tarps and so on and so forth in here. And there's some view screens where you can basically see like that the explosion is continuing to get worse, and the ship kind of flies off, and you were able to see like the moon basically split apart to the last degree and blow up as you kind of speed away from it.
Molly, are these friends of yours?
Well, they're part of the New Wave, so I think they're friends of all of us now.
I'm not sure I'd necessarily draw that conclusion so quickly, but okay.
He kind of looks over everybody.
For the time being.
Well, I guess we got here in time-ish.
So, how did you know to get here in time-ish?
Oh, well, we were just in the neighborhood.
And then?
Well, it's a good thing that we found you guys, because we'd like to talk to you about something.
Well, you literally have a captive audience, so...
Does the... He kind of... he leans over and he goes, does the name Tsathoggua mean anything to you?
No. No, it doesn't.
Do we see Roth crossing his fingers somewhere, or does he lie with impunity?
He's actually got a dossier of Sagatha like brought up on the monitor like as soon as he says that,
Right.
and kind of is reading over the history and what he might have missed.
Okay, so I think with that sight and the ship kind of spinning off into the sky, we cut away from these guys, and there's one other kind of stinger scene that I want to kind of put at the end here. Which 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Shaking fist at the ready.
Shake harder, boy.
I want to know who has my ship.
I want to know who has your ship.
Yeah, we cut to the bridge of the Chimera, where we see an unfortunately familiar figure, the shape of Legion Stone, standing at a table in the Lion. Behind him, the two imprisoned, id monsters that we saw earlier are lying prone, non-moving on the ground, with three of the other three figures standing around them. He snaps a finger, and the three of them all just dissolve into, basically like burning paper and disappear. And then he leans down. He's got a book which he has open on the table in front of him, and a pen made of some kind of like rather impressive feather of something that nobody on Earth certainly would have ever seen. He kind of opens it up to a certain page, and he starts writing a couple records. He adds in a couple new ones each, one for each of the two creatures. Behind him, draws a line at the end, and then kind of basically like a currency symbol. And at the moment he does that, the text kind of flares, red and glows for each one of them. Then he flips to a spot near the back where he finds a line that already just says the word Chimera. He initials quickly, dots, it starts to glow again. And we cut.
Oh.
Boo.
Yep.
Fist shaking.
That's it this week for the Chimera. Join us next time when we'll be having a bit of a post-mortem discussion about our first season, and then in 2 weeks after that, as we embark on our journey into the storied land of Greyhawk. Our theme music is Hoof, Heart, and Hiss by Matt Weber, and you can find a link to more of Matt's work in our show notes. You can also find us online at thechimera.space or on Twitter or Facebook at ChimeraPod. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It's the most descriptive name possible. It's a sack, and when you put them in it, they go to sleep.